The book of Revelation says, "The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ." This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Good evening, everybody. This is Chamish. I think that's a good show. First guest is new, well, to this show anyways. That's Pat Shannan. He's editor of the, now watch this, INI World Report, anyworldreport.com. There. Pat, are you there?
Yeah, hi, Barry.
Hi. We have people in common say we should have gotten together a long time ago. What is Any World Report? What do you do?
Well, it's a little confusing. I should have typed that to you in my last email. It actually comes from, excuse me, Independent News International, INI, but you and a few others like to call it Any too, and I can understand why. But anyway, INIWorldReport.com, and we do the same as Lou Rockwell and many others by just reporting the suppressed news, the stuff the mainstream media won't talk about and or avoids totally, and we try to put it out there for people to appreciate what's really going on behind the scenes and how programmed we are by TV and newspaper media.
I'm wondering if we should just dive into it. Name a story. Oh, by the way, we're getting terrible feedback. I hope that goes away. Are we there?
Yeah, let me see. Let me move away from...
It's okay. We'll make it.
All right.
All right. Now, look, first of all, you're talking about news that is covered up or not reported. Like what?
Well, we could go to the home page right now. Tell me if you can pull it up before I can. Tell me what's up there, and we'll talk about it.
Gosh, no, that shouldn't put you through that.
Okay, well then I'll attempt to answer your question anyway. I think one of the very much suppressed is the black on white crime, and that's pretty obvious to anybody who pays attention to the internet of how many stories are suppressed once they find out it was a black guy that shot the white woman, for instance, a police woman the other day, first day on the job. What a sad situation. But on the other hand, if there's a lone nut that they can tie to Gun Owners of America or the NRA, then of course they not only do they blow it all over every network, but we see it for several days.
Oh gosh, Pat, you're making terrible noise.
Okay, let me turn down this. All right, tell me, does this help any?
Yeah, we'll make do. I don't want to go into what you just said because we're going to get accused of being racist and all kinds of things.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's the big stigma word, that, and anti-Semite, and another one that's really come to the forefront of recent. In fact, I just wrote a piece about that in my last book, and that's conspiracy theorist. And conspiracy theory was something that was invented by the CIA when too many people got a little bit too intelligent, inquisitive on the JFK assassination. So it was a great way to sidestep. It's a conspiracy theory is a very clever and deceptive term invented by the deceiving government protectors and promulgated by establishment writers, I said. On the surface, it is as indefensible as child molester, racist, anti-Semite, But how can anyone have any reason to believe in the conspiracy facts of history without first studying them? Once done, the picture becomes very clear, very quickly. The only people, friends, neighbors, relatives, politicians, and news commentators that I have ever heard use the term in a deprecating manner simply have not done their own homework and are merely parroting someone else.
Again, we're talking about... Okay, I hear me again. It's okay. You know what? I could care less about this. All right. What you're saying is that it's a really, really nasty thing to be called a conspiracy theorist. Is that what you're saying here?
Well, that's a great way to head off anytime anybody gets a little bit too close to facts of a government cover-up. We just saw with the Scalia hit out in West Texas. I mean, that's about some of the stupidest stuff you ever read, if we're trying to be honest. No autopsy, no medical examiner, a Catholic who gets cremated. Yeah, give me a break.
Well, it's actually, I was really reluctant to go along with it. But, you know, Joel Skousen was my guest last week. We had a very lively discussion. And I said, maybe it was just an old man who died. But then this business in the Washington Post about Scalia meeting with the Bohemian Club, and it was not a normal, everyday hunting adventure. It was a genuine, well, let's say a conspiracy. They were meeting to do something, but it wasn't what we thought it was. My experience, that's all.
Yeah, well, once again, we can only speculate, but there's the one I'm chasing now, of course, is the one that brought you and me together that John sent us, and we don't know if these Boys Town kids we know it happened in the White House, we know it happened back in '89.
Oh, you're talking about Schroeder. You're talking about Schroeder claiming, all right.
Yeah, and so, but whether or not he's telling us the truth or is he fantasizing, I don't think he's lying. But are the facts really there? I don't doubt that he was an abused child because of we know that it went on and he was part of those victims. But I think he's strictly speculating now on that this is what happened to Scalia. I don't think we can ever nail that down for sure.
I would say, from the first moment I read it, I didn't view it as a reliable report. Okay, just between us, this reporter was claiming that Scalia raped him, and the latest little boy took a knife and slit his throat. It was very fantastic.
Yeah, it was off the chart, and it was strictly conspiracy theory. There's a theory for sure, but it's not a fact that we can prove yet.
Well, the fact remains, if he was a pedophile and he was meeting at this resort to rape a young boy, if this were all true, I think it would go beyond this story. All right, people would actually be looking at it. You would think, don't you think?
Well, I just don't think this guy who made this claim has enough credibility or enough facts. He was speculating, so I cast it aside also until we can know more. But I don't think we ever will, because if indeed Scalia was murdered in any fashion by anybody, another 13-year-old victim or not, it's got to be covered up, and it appears to be a great cover-up in place, and that's all we can know, and it's probably all we will ever know.
Well, you know what? I'm at your point as well. It's probably the end of the line for all of us, and that's that. But again, this speculation is not healthy. When this gets, he was raping little boys and his throat was slit. I mean, you gotta back stuff like that up. All right? You can't just say it and leave it dangling. You gotta prove it.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly where I feel. But see, I've been down the road with so many of these things. I just got a piece today on Vince Foster, And I have actually lain in the slot where Vince's body was found. I was all over that case back in the 90s. But this piece that came out today, somebody has finally uncovered that Patrick Knowlton, who was one of the early FBI targets because he knew too much, but his lawyer, John Clark in Washington, D.C., I did a long story on a Media Bypass magazine 15 years ago, told me what is now hitting the Internet that has been pulled out of some secret archive somewhere in D.C., But John Clark told me back 15 years ago in the interview that Vince Foster was shot twice. He was indeed shot through the mouth when he came out the back of his head. The bullet was never found. And this is all that the official report ever told us. But he told me a long time ago, and even it's in my article, that there was a second bullet wound, and now they're saying what they uncovered even was a different caliber, and it was impossible, of course, for Vince Foster to have shot himself twice. I wrote a piece on that. In fact, there were 64 unanswered questions that Fisk and the other investigators and the FBI, of course, totally evaded back in '93. And it's in my book. Everything they ever told me was a lie. You can find that at INIWorldReport.com. But we covered quite a few of those.
We'll return to that shortly.
Right.
There's a lot to handle here. Look, Vince Foster takes us, that goes back to Hillary Clinton's first term in the White House. All right, I said what I said. Am I wrong?
Oh, you mean tying into Hillary?
Yeah.
Oh, of course not. In fact, I have their picture here together in my book. They were lovers. I interviewed the chauffeur for Bill and Hillary. He was a highway patrolman in Little Rock, and he a retired Arkansas State Police trooper, and he had told me that he was driving them one night when they were all out drinking, and Vince and Hillary were all over each other, and Bill and Vince's wife, whatever her name was, were all over each other in the car, the whole night. There apparently was a wife-swapping thing going on even way back then, but it's pretty much well known in the Little Rock circles that Vince and Hillary were an item for a while.
Well, that's, without diving into it, why was he killed?
Well, that's some speculation, too, but probably goes back to that he learned too much too soon. And I don't know if he was talking or threatening to blackmail somebody or what, but he certainly knew everything behind the scenes, probably more than anybody else would have. With the Whitewater, for instance, the Whitewater law firm. And these papers were allegedly stored in the Oklahoma City Murrah building, but we don't know that for sure either. But allegedly that's where they had been hidden out or had been stashed prior to the operation that they knew was coming in Oklahoma City. I guess you know that ammonium nitrate fuel oil did not bring down the Murrah building. You're aware of that, aren't you?
It was a major explosion, if I'm not mistaken. The building, the top 3-4 floors went up in flames.
Well, actually, the bombs were placed at the third floor level, right over the nursery. It was designed to murder kids. It was designed to stroke the heartstrings of Americans in anger, because you see, in '93, just 2 years before in New York, they found out that New Yorkers, Americans don't too much give a hoot what happens in New York. That wasn't enough to anger America, but heartland murder was, and especially with the kids. But I hooked up with Brigadier General Ben Parton, who's retired from the Air Force at the time, and he had seen the story at home sitting in his house in Alexandria, Virginia, reading nothing more than Newsweek, Time, U.S. News, and looking at the pictures and saying, baloney, the ammonium nitrate fuel oil didn't do this. Well, he should know. He was 30 years as a instructor at one of the military schools in demolition. If the FBI had wanted the truth of what happened in Oklahoma City, there was no better witness on earth than Ben Parton. And he showed, from looking at no more than magazine pictures, where 3 of the bombs were placed in the Murrah building, and see there was damage and columns destructed in the rear, farther away from the truck, and the columns in the front that were not destructed. They were not brought down.
What was his? Timothy McVeigh, I believe.
McVeigh.
You're right. He's still in prison, right?
No, he was executed allegedly. We're not even sure about that, but that was in 01. He was allegedly, and I'll explain that in a minute, but took the needle in Terre Haute, Indiana, to prison.
All right. Now,
there was a Chicago Tribune newswoman who, when they brought him out on the gurney, noticed that he was still breathing, and she even wrote about it. I'm sure she probably didn't keep her job long.
New information to me. We'll just let it soak in. Look, the key is that McVeigh set off a bomb that was incredibly powerful, and he took the rap. He was the perfect patsy. He didn't object.
Mm-hmm.
Am I saying something wrong?
No, that's right. And there was a long piece that I did on there. In fact, it's also in my book, too, that points out, and I did it, I learned it by interviewing someone else with military experience who knew that McVeigh must not die. He must not be executed because they have to know that the others have to know that they're being protected. And see, this team of CIA hit people are all over the world. They have to know that they're going to be protected. And I'm really just skirming across the surface here, but you could read those details. In fact, I think you can find that story on the net. Anybody who wants to look at the details of how we arrived at those conclusions, but it's called, the headline was Pat Shannon's article. It was from Media Bypass Magazine. The headline is Tim in hell or on Paradise Island?
And the answer is?
Well, I conclude that he probably is on Paradise Island from what I learned and how he had to be protected in order that the others know that they will be.
All right, I think you're jumping ahead and speculating here.
Well, that's because I know more facts about it than you do, and that's why I urge people to read the story and then conclude on their own.
Well, tell people how to get to it.
They could have to do a search for that, or they can go to my book called Everything They Ever Told Me Was a Lie. It's reprinted in there. And that is at iniworldreport.com. In fact, all my books are listed there for anyone interested. In fact, we got quite a good package, a large package for a less than half price for anybody who wants to see the Oklahoma City video and about 7 other books. And, another big video also on 911. So, anyway, you didn't invite me on to sell books. We can talk about anything, but I just want...
Actually, that's part and parcel. Look, what you said about 9/11, I actually was in on the early days. I came up with, let's just say, my logic. It was not to be disputed that at 5:20 in the afternoon, Building 7, which wasn't hit by a plane, was brought down by the owner, and it went straight down in a straight line.
Well, yeah, actually it was at 5:23 p.m., but the exciting thing about that story is that at 5 o'clock, the BBC out of London has got a woman over there standing in the building in South Manhattan, and out the back window in her background is the burning Trade Center, and there is Building 7 still standing at 5 o'clock when she's telling us that it has collapsed. So she knew it 20 minutes or 23 minutes before anybody else.
All right, I don't know how to react to that.
Well, pull it up. You can see the video yourself. Just do a Google search for it.
One thing, a plane was supposed to hit Building 7, and it was supposed to go straight down after the plane hit it. But that plane got felled in Pennsylvania. Didn't hit the building. It was filled with explosives, and they had to explode the building before they were found out.
Apparently, that could be. That's certainly one of the theories. And then so they dumped the plane and did nothing but dig a hole in the ground.
I'm not sure about dumping it, but something happened, and it certainly didn't turn around and go to New York.
Yeah. Well, but that plane also was not in Pennsylvania. They may have dumped it out in the ocean, but there was no plane in that hole in Pennsylvania.
I'm not sure how to react to that one.
Well, that's what the witnesses there said, and anybody can look at the picture. You know, same with the Pentagon, Barry. He got a 16-foot hole in the wall in the Pentagon, about maybe the size of your master bedroom in your house, and they're saying that we packed a 767 Boeing aircraft in there. It's ridiculous. No plane hit the Pentagon.
All right, but just to go back to my little theory about Building 7, as far as I know, I was the first to spread my theory that, the plane didn't arrive to slam into Building 7, so they brought it down without the plane. Yes,
I mean, the charges were there. You know, it takes weeks, maybe even months to load a building, and so, and anybody that was paying attention noted that in the first two that went down in the morning, though it looked awfully suspicious, it sure looked like demolition to me. And then when that one happened in the afternoon, it was so obvious. Did you know that the Keene report, which Bush and Cheney suppressed and held them back for 3 years, I think it was 2004 before that congressional report finally came out, and you know what they said about Building 7?
What?
Nothing. They ignored it totally. Now, that's an official government report. A 47-story building collapses, and they don't even mention it because they couldn't explain it.
Can you imagine putting all the explosives in a big building without anyone noticing?
No.
Okay, I mean, look, the problem with illogic is when you're stressed with a story like that the building has enough explosives to go straight down. Well, that must have been packed before. What is that? Take a lot of logic.
Now they either worked at night for many days and weeks, and probably finished it off over the weekend because this didn't happen until Tuesday. Or there were enough people in there that it didn't make any difference who saw them.
Well, the key is the building went down, and nobody asked why.
Yeah.
Why did that building go down if a plane didn't hit it? It wasn't on fire. There was no emergency.
Well, Giuliani and the CIA had all their brains in there. That's where all the computers and everything were.
It doesn't matter. The issue was the plane didn't hit it, and they brought it down without the plane. It doesn't matter what was inside the building. It matters that the plane didn't crash into it. All right, without diving into that, to me it's very straightforward.
Yep.
Well, it made my mark. I went to New York, 5th anniversary, addressed the congregants and told them my theory, and it went over very well. And I think it's still, I've had my effect too, okay? Did I lose you?
Say that again?
Oh, all right.
You've had what?
No, it's okay. We're taking a very brief break.
Okay.
And it's probably best for us, and we'll get back and we'll talk about this election happening now. I could care less about it. To me, it's just a major joke, but what the heck, you've written about it. So we'll be back in 3 minutes.
Let's talk about electronic vote fraud, too.
Go ahead. All yours. I'll see you at 3.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host, Melody Cedarstrom, right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, 1-800-375-4188.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
Hi, folks. It's Barry Chamish. And just to remind you, all of my books are available at lulu.com. That's www.lulu.com. You'll see a search box. Just write in my last name, Chamish. C-H-A-M-I-S-H. That'll take you to all my books. And, well, Thank you, David Samrand. I have a website, too. It's barrychamish.com. And, Pat, here's your chance. Plug your books.
Well, I became interested in all this before most of my audience was born, and that would have been with the Kennedy assassination. And I was
talking
intrigued
about Senator Robert Kennedy.
No, JFK, of course. Robert I've written about also in the past. You know, I've got an interesting thing to talk about on that case, too. But anyway, just generally speaking, I was an amateur sleuth until 1983 when the marshals conspired to murder Gordon Call in North Dakota, and it backfired on him, and he killed a couple of them and went on the lam, and they finally executed him, shot him in the back of the head in northeast Arkansas in June the 3rd of 1983. And this case really pushed me over the edge, and I was bursting with 20 years worth of conspiratorial information in my head that I decided if I didn't start writing about it and talking about it, I was going to explode. So
right. Now, this is a new case to me, and I'll bet you to most people listening, what case from North Dakota in '83? This is something I'm not aware of. Can you?
Gordon Call.
Yes.
Gordon Call, K-A-H-L. You didn't need to do nothing more than do a search for his name, and it'll pop up. But Gordon Call had been what they like to label as a tax protester, and he had gone a little bit too public down in Texas with another friend of his on the radio, and ended up getting a year for willful failure, he and his friend. And while they were in there, his friend mysteriously died of a heart attack, and although he was in good health, and Gordon knew that he was going to be next. But he got out and he went back to his farm in North Dakota, and he told the chief U.S. Marshal who came to visit him that, his name was Bud Warren, and Bud Warren had a lot of respect for Gordon because he knew he was a fine Christian man, and so was Bud, and Gordon simply told him, he said, look, I'm not reporting to your probation officer. I'm not going to submit to that. I'm still a free American, and I'm telling you, leave me alone. I have no plans to bother you guys, but I want you to leave me alone. And Bud respected that. Well, and that was in 1980. In 81, a new regime came in North Dakota, and Ronald Reagan's administration came in, and as you probably know, when the administration changes, then all the federal jobs kind of get turned upside down also. And Bud Warren had needed only a few months, maybe 6 months to retirement as a chief U.S. Marshal. And he chose to, rather than retire, because they wanted to elevate someone else above him as chief marshal, he just stayed on as a marshal until his retirement days are up. But he kept warning them, don't go after Gordon Call. He's not harming anybody. Well, the new marshal decided he wanted to make a name for himself, and one thing led to another. It's a very long story, but they set up a trap for him, an ambush, in North Dakota in Medina, and I spent a month out there, by the way, but the result was that the marshals got gunned down because Gordon Call was a sharpshooter. He had a Silver Star from World War II, and I think a couple of bronze. And so he killed a couple of marshals and managed to escape through the night. When the cloud set in, there was a mysterious cloud that set over, apparently protecting him. I compared it to George Washington crossing the Hudson a couple hundred years earlier. But Gordon had made friends down with people in Arkansas, and Mina, matter of fact, that later became a notorious name, but they moved him around a little bit and protected him until one of the so-called patriots' daughter found out there's a $25,000 reward. She went to the FBI and turned him in, and that's when they came after him, and they murdered him in the little shack out there in northeast Arkansas. I visited there. I talked with the neighbors about what happened in addition to what I had read and the official story. But what happened was some weeks later, a New York Times reporter, which I thought just kind of really was appropriate. Like the Lord led this guy to, because it wasn't like some cop finding it and being able to bury it. But what did he find? He found the feet of Gordon Kahl. They had the FBI, after they had killed him and burnt the shack up, had gone in and chopped his hands and feet off in order to prevent him being fingerprinted and identified. And the
is this a significant case? It sounds like a bit of, bad law, but I mean, who was Gordon Kahl, and why is this significant to you?
Because of the outrageous behavior of the United States Marshals plotting to murder him.
Oh, all right. I've had a lifetime that's seen a lot of that. A lot of it. I'm just going to leave it at that. That doesn't shock me one bit.
Well, your older audience will remember the case well.
Here's hoping. All right. I think I am. All right. You got very, very energized by this Kahl case in North Dakota. I don't think it's a major case. I think we should be talking about. All right. Your website. All right. Any World Report. Now, first of all, let's do an article you sent me. This is from 5-6 months ago, where you predicted the Trump campaign. Now, I could care less about this thing. It's really not for grown-up people to be even remotely involved with. But you did report the Trump election. Can you remind people of your profound prescience 5-6 months ago?
Yeah, that was my September musings. At that time, I was doing the musings column every month. We just watched the first so-called debate in August, when all the news people tried to make a fool of Trump, and he ended up making a fool of them. But I began to reminisce about things like Lyndon Johnson could never have been president if they had not forced him on the ticket with JFK. JFK didn't want him. He had already appointed had told Stuart Symington, senator from Missouri, that he was going to be the vice president. And I think it was probably Hoover, but certainly Hoover's source, that they came to him during the night during the Democratic convention after Kennedy had been nominated, and they told him that it's going to have to be Lyndon Johnson. And they kind of force-fed him, probably with some threats of exposing too much about his past. Nevertheless, the same thing was true with Ronald Reagan and George Bush. George Bush and Reagan were at each other's throats back in 79 and 80. And Bush calling the Reagan financial plan voodoo economics. And Reagan certainly did not want George Bush on his ticket. But he was told that if he ever wanted to see the inside of the White House any other way than being a tourist, he would put George Bush on the ticket. Now, this is why I used the phrase. I said, these people, even Obama, they think they're president. Ronald Reagan thought he was president for 9 weeks, and he found out he wasn't, because the president still takes orders from the silent ones above. And it took him 9 weeks before Reagan began to realize he was only the front man, and because he was so articulate and so desirable, so easy to like, that George Bush simply rode in with him. So that's the point I'm making leading up to what's happening right now. Now, there's such a thing as electronic vote fraud that has been going on in this country for some time. And if you've never seen a book called Vote Scam by the Collier brothers, James and Kenneth Collier, it's still in print, and it's even available, I think, for free on the Internet for a search. this explains what's been going on even before we had the electronic voting that is so easy to falsify, if you've seen any of the videos from Princeton University and elsewhere on the net. But the point I'm making here is they're going to put in whomever they want. But I have noted the last couple of weeks...
Wait a minute. Where's the fraud? Don't jump over this. You were about to get to the electronic voting fraud.
Okay, well, I am.
You are? Okay.
Yeah, so the way I don't think we have enough time for me to explain in detail, but it's so easy for someone to learn. Are you not aware of electronic vote fraud?
I think I can bluff it.
Well, okay. Well, anyway, you punch in a little card into the machine these days, and then when you pull it out, it casts your vote. Princeton University ran a test on it and showed how they voted for George Washington and Benedict Arnold in their example. And they've had 4 votes cast for George Washington and 1 vote cast for Benedict Arnold. But when the machine finished printing the thing out, it not only kicks out that Benedict Arnold had won 3-2, but there's no evidence, there's no tape, there's nothing to record what really would happen because it all dies in cyberspace. This is what electronic vote fraud is. This is what happened to Ron Paul in 2008. This is why he never had a chance in the primaries. But I was making the point a couple of weeks ago that I have not seen electronic vote fraud utilized yet against Trump. Now, if he is really on the inside, as some want to say, well, he's their tool to put Hillary in, and he's really one of them, and, well, then that would be the reason that they have not used electronic vote fraud against him. But I'm saying that you and I are going to know in the next few hours, because today is the day. If they don't utilize electronic vote fraud and pump up Cruz, as they may have in Iowa, and if they don't pump up Rubio, the whole campaign is over. Because, hey, if Cruz, who's running neck and neck in Texas in his own home state, if he can't carry his home state, he might as well hang it up. And the same with Rubio in Florida, which Rubio probably will lose Florida in a non-selection. So I'm saying that we are going to know. And this question being, is Trump really on the inside? Is a great actor? Is this a Brer Rabbit, don't throw me in a briar patch type thing going on here? Is he going to turn on the people? Because he certainly has made himself attractive to... And the main reason he's attractive to so many, the main reason he's attractive to me is that he claims to be fighting establishment. And who in the world would want to have any of the other candidates up there, knowing their backgrounds, knowing their ties to the elite, to Wall Street, and everything else that's going on behind the scenes? I see no one else in there that's offering an alternative, and Trump might be a fraud. But I say tonight we'll find out.
Oh, gosh, you're really involved in this thing. And frankly,
Hey, Barry, I must correct you there. I haven't voted since Reagan, and I didn't even vote for him the second time, because that's when I began to learn what's going on. So I care little about politics and elections because of the fraud. I wish it could be clean, but it's not.
My feeling is exactly. We probably shared lifetimes. I've been exposed to, call them the elites, for lack of a better word. But
the club.
They run my people. They really do. They run. The people don't know they're being run, but they're being run. And you get very discouraged after realizing that's the absolute truth.
Yes. Well, we know too much. And that's why I say I voted for Reagan the first time, because I still was naive enough to believe that some change was going to be made. But then when I saw what happened to him and began to understand this vote fraud and other stuff that was going on, I knew that it made no difference.
All right, so you're in your opinion, the Trump election was, even the way of his election was decided 6 months ago?
Yes, whether he's in or out. That's what I do agree with that. And, Hillary... CNN put out today that Hillary Clinton would beat Don Trump 56-44 in the general election. Now, if that's not the biggest load of baloney you ever heard, I mean, who? That is such a propaganda.
What difference does it make? What difference does it make? You've got poo-poo and caca running for highest office.
Well, not only that, but whether poo-poo gets in or caca gets in, they both will be controlled. That's the bigger picture. Like old George Carlin said, it's their club and you ain't in it.
Look, there was an issue. Actually, I saw a terrible movie about the issue in Benghazi, where the U.S. ambassador and another 5 of his people were slaughtered, and apparently Hillary Clinton was watching it via videotape and told them to stand down, don't rescue him. That has been investigated. It is such a mess.
There was an email piece that came out today. Somebody has finally intercepted or collected somehow one of those emails confirming everything you just said and more about Benghazi.
As I said, how did you get an election? This is no democracy. I mean, this is not everyone having a chance for highest office.
No.
But, well, you go on. You just go on and you do the system and you go voting. And everyone should boycott it. Everyone.
Yep. Yeah, besides, democracy is another conspiracy theory fact that's been dug up because America was founded as a constitutional republic, and all of the founders abhorred democracy. It was rejected out of hand in no time when they were deciding what system of government to install.
One vote to one man wasn't the American. Yes.
Yeah, well, democracy ends at the voting poll box, at the ballot box. After that, we were supposed to be electing a representative to go to Washington to take care of the needs of the people and desires of the people, and senators were supposed to be appointed by the state legislatures. They changed that in 1913. The same year they brought in the IRS and the Federal Reserve Bank, they also brought in the 17th Amendment, which decided, and boy, was that easy to get an amendment to, because everybody said, oh, yeah, I want to vote for my senator. But what it did, it diluted the constitutional republic system, because now the states had no voice in Washington. The people were electing both representatives and the senators. Now, bigger than that, the states always supported the federal bureaucracy, which was very tiny, because the states funded Washington with something called apportionment. So if the federal government wanted to build, we'll say, an interstate highway across country and they need these many funds from blah, 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 then it came from the states and it came an equal apportionment. So if Mississippi had 2 million people and California had 20 million people, then California's bill was 10 times as big as Mississippi's, but by apportionment, it was equal to the people there, wasn't it? Then the states funded Washington. This is what kept Washington, D.C., the federal bureaucracy, tiny and kept the states in charge. What changed all of that was the establishment of the Federal Reserve Bank and the ability for the Federals to bypass Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution that says no state shall make anything but gold and silver coin intended in payment of debts. Once the feds got the ability to govern that by printing their own counterfeit money, it made no difference what the law said about what the states could use.
All right. Now, before we go, I'm getting the echo, but I'll live with it again. I want to talk Senator Bobby Kennedy. I'm about to have, John Rappaport is on my show next, and he wrote about Kennedy. I'm about to bring it up. What have you got? Let's hear your angle.
All right, well, the most important thing I have, what do we got, 5 minutes?
Yeah.
But the most important thing I have a chapter, and everything they ever told me was a lie. I have a chapter on who killed Bobby Kennedy, and if you remember, Sirhan, whose parole hearing just came up.
Yep. I got that.
Well, Sirhan, he was obviously under some kind of mind control, hypnosis or whatever, but he doesn't even remember the case. But it's since been proven, as you probably know, that there were 13 shots fired in the room.
Yeah.
He had an 8-shot Ivor Johnson revolver. I knew the gun well. I was in Sydney, Australia when it happened, but when they said Ivor Johnson, I knew the weapon because I had the same thing in the pocket of my car that I used to drive around in because when I was an entertainer and getting paid off on Saturday nights. But anyway, of course, the thing was fixed from the beginning. Kennedy was shot in the back of the head, and Sirhan was never behind him. But here's the thing that happened later on the cover-up and the fix-up of that case, Barry, was when they got to a trial. Grant Cooper was a popular divorce lawyer in Hollywood and had handled a lot of big cases, big names. But he was appointed as the attorney for Sirhan and was selling him out at every turn. In fact, was trying to. Excuse me. Are you there?
Yep, I'm still here.
I just dropped my. Anyway, well, by the time they got to trial, Sirhan had already tried to fire him, and they wouldn't let him. They wouldn't let him fire Cooper. So they put on this guy. Here it is on page 222. And the guy's name, who was Dwayne Wolfer, was the so-called super-duper expert for LAPD. He was a criminologist, and he got on the witness stand and said that he had personally test-fired the weapon, an Ivor Johnson .22 revolver with serial number, listen to this, H18602, and had found it to be the weapon that had fired the bullets that had been removed from Kennedy's neck and several other victims. Now, the problem with that, Barry, is that the serial number on Sirhan's Ivor Johnson weapon was H53725, not 18602. The lawyers, Grant Cooper and the rest of them, had this information right on their desk at the defense table.
Well, what's the significance of that?
Sirhan's gun did not hit Kennedy. He fired a gun and he hit everybody else in the room, including the 91-year-old guy who went to testify at his parole hearing. But Sirhan never hit Kennedy the first time. Kennedy was shot from the back with a different weapon. That's the significance.
All right. I've got that in the report. That's from Phil Van Prague, the audio guy. I actually read that.
Well, Ted Chirac was the one that uncovered. Do you remember Ted? Ted Chirac, he was an investigative journalist for one of the Los Angeles TV stations. And he put out a great video. I don't know if it can be found anymore. Mine's in pretty grainy condition, VHS, of course, and 30 years old. But he got this information initially, and his gun expert, had he been in trial, Ted says they would have acquitted Sirhan. And it's just like Oklahoma City and the bombing. They cannot afford to have these people like General Ben Parton appear in court and tell these truths.
In short, there was, somebody would say a fair hearing, but he had a hearing very recently, Sirhan, and it didn't move the court at all.
Well, we always want him to show remorse, and he said, I can't show remorse on something I don't even remember I did.
Well, the Harvard psychologist Daniel Brown testifying that he was the easiest guy I've ever seen to hypnotize, and you did have extenuating circumstances at this hearing. But
well, I don't see anything extenuating about Sirhan being hypnotized. That shows some MK Ultra mind control from the CIA.
Oh, God. Listen, we got to have you back on, okay? It was a very enjoyable hour, and don't lose me. I'll send you out I got a copy of a book of mine. Maybe I can send you. Just drop me your address, and it'll be in the mail to you.
Okay, very good. And scope out my $99 special there on the I World Report.
Perfect. People, we're at LibertyArchives.com for a week. If you missed all that, I'll be back in 7 minutes with John Rappaport.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.